Welcome back to Movie Explainer. Today's story is the 2021 science fiction action movie Venom Let There Be Carnage, which is a sequel to Venom. If you haven't seen our recap on it, watch it here. We begin in the St. Eustace home of unwanted children. A young Cletus Cassidy talks to the love of his life, Frances Barrison. Frances is being taken away because of her ability to scream in a sharp sound. Cletus can only listen helplessly. Cletus can only listen helplessly as they take her away. On the way, Frances attacks the policeman only to get shot in the eye. Frances is then put in Ravencroft Institute where they study her under strict lockdown. Meanwhile, Cletus is now on death row for his several killings. He asks to see Eddie Brock. Eddie used to be an investigative journalist who had his own show, but now he is shifted to the written form. He is also host to an alien symbiote called Venom. Milligan, the policeman who shot Francis, says the bodies of Cletus's victims are still missing. So maybe Cletus will reveal it to Eddie. So Eddie unwillingly goes to San Quentin prison. There, Cletus is glad to see him and promises to reveal all his secrets. He gives a cryptic message to him which Eddie prints and Francis sees. Eddie then starts to get creeped out and leaves. But before leaving, Venom makes him look at Cletus's room. Afterward, Venom uses Eddie's hand to recreate all the drawings from his room. Eddie does not know most of them, but does recognize one location. He informs the police, who find the bodies that Cletus has buried there. Eddie becomes a hero. With these new bodies as proof, a state sentence to Cletus to death. Frances screams when she sees these. Cletus is also furious. Meanwhile, Venom and Eddie are often arguing with each other like an old married couple. Venom wants to eat human brains because that is his sustenance. But Eddie does not allow him. Not even bad guys, because the FBI is watching them due to the events of the past. Instead, he's brought chicken for Venom. But with their brains are too small to satisfy him, still Eddie and Dan. But Dan actually proposed to her. Eddie is in shock and Venom is furious. Eddie controls him though, then and leans in and asks Venom to take care of Eddie. Venom can control Eddie's body to some extent, but he make him cry in front of Anne. The next day, Venom cooks for Eddie to make him feel better. But Eddie is too depressed to care. He then gets an invitation from Cletus in the postcard with whimsical handwriting. Cletus mentions how his parent and grandmother were abusive. So he threw his grandma off the stairs, electrified his mother, and stabbed the dog. So his father beat him near death and sent him to St. Eustace's home of unwanted children. There he was bullied, but Francis always saved him. That is how their love story began. Fascinated by all this, Eddie goes to him before the execution. Cletus is furious at Eddie for bringing death earlier than expected, but he smiles through it. He starts teasing Eddie about how he's alone and how his mother died giving birth to him. Venom is furious and attacks Cletus. Cletus also fights back and bites Eddie's hand. But he says that he know the taste of blood and what he got from Eddie was not blood. He sees the strange thing and quickly eats it. Later, Eddie and Venom get into an argument about what just happened. Venom tells him that everything they achieved was because of him, while Eddie reminds Venom that Venom is considered a loser of his own home planet. They start fighting each other, but Venom has the advantage as he throws Eddie around. He then destroys the apartment and enters another body. Outside, he destroys Eddie's bike and leave. At the prison, Cletus is about to be given a lethal injection while the victim's family look on. Suddenly, his blood pushes back the fluid and attacks everyone inside. Cletus appears as a terrible symbiotic monster, and his name is Carnage. Carnage attacks all the prison guards and escapes. Everywhere, as Eddie is fixing up his apartment, he sees news about how Cletus escaped the prison. A knock comes on the door just then. Thankfully, it's just Detective Mulligan who is here to check on Eddie. Seeing him safe, he leaves. Eddie starts getting scared and look up everything he knows about Cletus. In the city, Venom finds no host who's a perfect match for him. They either go weak or die after a while. Meanwhile, Cletus kills a man and takes his clothes. Then he steals a car. He talks with Carnage about finding Eddie and Francis, while Carnage wants to destroy Venom, so they agree to help each other. Eddie goes to St. Eustace and find a tree with CK plus FB. He calls Mulligan, who informs him that FB is Francis Barrison, the true lover of Cletus. He thinks back to his encounter with Francis and has a traumatic flashback. Elsewhere, Cletus kills a store clerk and hooks into the internet. He finds that Francis is being kept in Ravencroft Institution. He quickly goes there and kills the warden. Then he breaks Francis's cell and they kiss. Instead of getting scared of Carnage, Francis is fascinated by him. Outside, some police cars meet them, and Carnage starts destroying them. Francis also helps her with Scream. But the sound is lethal to a symbiote like Carnage, so Cletus tells her not to use it. Meanwhile, Venom's latest host still not a match for him. So he goes to Mrs. Chen, a store owner who is friend with Eddie and knows about Venom. Mulligan reaches Ravencroft and gets the confirmation that Francis has escaped. He suspects that Eddie knows something, so he brings him in. From Mulligan's report of Carnage, Eddie guesses that there's another symbiote running around. But he can't tell him anything, so he calls Anne. Her fiancé, Dan, has helped Eddie in the past and is angry that Eddie got into trouble again. Anne goes to Eddie, who tells her everything he knows and asks her to find Venom. Anne and Dan goes to Mrs. Chen and ask about Venom. She replies rudely to them, saying that Eddie was bad to Venom, and immediately guesses that Venom is inside her. Because he is being stubborn, Anne talks to him flirtatiously and that softens Venom, and he agrees to help Eddie. Elsewhere, Cletus finds Francis, burn down St. Eustace, and they prepare to find their three targets. Cletus wants Eddie, Carnage wants Venom, and Francis wants Mulligan for shooting her. Anne goes back to Eddie. She is now the she Venom. She takes Eddie and breaks out of the prison. They go to a scheduled place, but Venom refuses to come out unless Eddie apologizes to him. Eddie is reluctant at first, but with some convincing from Anne, he gives a heartfelt apology. Venom enters Eddie again. They then tell Anne and Dan to leave the city after reminding them that sharp noises and fire kill a symbiote. Mulligan is going to Eddie's apartment, but Cletus finds them and captures him. Upstairs, Frances finds Anne's engagement ring and takes it for herself. Then she goes to Dan and Anne. She takes Anne and tells Dan to bring Eddie to the cathedral. Dan promises that Eddie will kill her and Cletus. Dan then calls Eddie and tells him what happened. At the cathedral, Cletus and Francis prepare to marry, with Milligan and Anne as witnesses. Venom arrives just then, and Carnage reveals himself, calling Venom father. Venom is immediately scared because Carnage is a red symbiote and they are extremely violent. But Eddie promises to let Venom eat Cletus if he fights. Venom is convinced. Frances screams at Venom, but Carnage quickly knocks her off. Then he and Venom fight. Meanwhile, Mulligan breaks free of his bonds and escapes. So Frances goes after him. She stabs him on his shoulder and then destroys his eye for her eye. Downstairs, Carnage starts to overpower Venom. So Dan drops fuel and fire on him. It helps somewhat, but Carnage stops it and almost eats Dan. Suddenly, the cathedral bells ring and both symbiotes react. It is now Eddie versus Cletus. Cletus is angry that while Eddie wrote about his serial killings, he ignored the fact that Cletus was abused by everyone in his family when he was a child. He takes a hammer and breaks Eddie's legs. Then he takes Anne and goes up. Venom thinks that they can beat Carnage. Upstairs, Frances is shocked by the extent to which Carnage has taken control of Cletus. So, Carnage shuts her up and takes her captive as well. Much to Cletus's anger, he starts struggling against Carnage. But Venom gives no damn for that BS and eats him. When the police come, Eddie, Anne, and Dan escape. Eddie goes in a different direction because he's now a fugitive, while Anne and Dan are normal citizens. Upstairs, Mulligan's eye starts to glow. Eddie and Venom go to the beach and watch the sunset. There, Eddie admits his appreciation for Venom. They make a new name for themselves, the Lethal Protectors, whose duty is to stop trouble. They see a young boy in a weird red and blue costume, and that is how Venom 2 ends. With a connection to the multiverse, No Way Home is still going to be a blast. Subscribe for more content like this. You have no idea how much it means to us. We'll get you more recap videos of awesome movies. Thank you for watching.